Thank you. Okay. So at no point of time, Bhagwan Ji says, so, okay, now, he does not say blind rituals or blind faith or blind stuff, okay? Understand everything and then do. If you don't understand something, apply yourself more and more to understand it, okay? But do follow things with the understanding, and you may not understand everything today, right? Like if, for example, you have to do Nam Jap, okay? Now, yeah, you don't understand, like, why do I have to do Nam Jap? I can't see the value of it today, right? It's okay. That's when the faith kicks in, okay? There are two aspects to getting there, right? Like you have to have faith and you have to have gyan. The most important thing is gyan. We've talked about this before, right? All the delusion that is there, the delusion is in understanding. It is an avaran, it is a veiling, which causes us to not see the truth. Okay? And it is ignorance. Ignorance is all in your understanding. Correct? So no amount of karma, no amount of bhakti, none of this can ever lead you to really get to moksha. Karma yoga, bhakti yoga does not get you moksha. There's only one thing that gets you moksha. Moksha is what? Understanding. Understanding. Once you've understood that there is no bhed between my Atma and Paramatma. They are both the same. I am Paramatma. The moment you understand that, you've achieved moksha. Okay? Because then you will see unity in this diversity. You will see Bhagwanji everywhere, which is what he's trying to make us understand in this shut up. Okay? You've achieved your moksha. But then why Bhakti Yoga? Then why Karma Yoga? Why do we do this in the first place? We do this because for us to get to that gyan, okay, first of all, why Bhakti Yoga? Now, if our parampara tells us do Nam Jap, okay, I don't understand it because my buddhi is not yet subtle enough, or I haven't done enough tap to experience it. End of the day, knowledge has to become experiential, right? You have to experience that Atma and Parama. Intellectually, so we understand by now, chapter 11 has been said, every chapter we are hearing the same thing. Intellectually, we all understand Atma, Paramatma, there is no bhed, all of that stuff. But experientially, do we really experience it? We don't, right? We still experience separateness. The whole idea is to get it in an experiential knowledge. The moment you get there, you've achieved moksha, okay? Till the time that experiential knowledge is not there, that's when the faith has to kick in. That's when the bhakti has to kick in. That's why faith and bhakti is important. It helps us until we get there, but not blindly, not blindly. You've been told to do Nam Jap. Do Nam Jap because you've been told to do Nam Jap. But understand, observe the change in your consciousness, observe how your thoughts are changing, observe that there is slowly at some point of time beginning to be a difference between you getting a stimulus and you actually acting on that stimulus, and in between Bhagwanji is coming in, so that you are not reacting anymore from your old habits. You're not reacting as per your old well-established sanskars. Now you're beginning to create new neural pathways which allow you to act differently, which allow you to choose. You're beginning to recognize the choice that exists between stimulus and action. And you're beginning to exercise that choice slowly, shanay, slowly. Okay? So that is where bhakti comes in. And where does Karma Yoga come in? Karma Yoga is what allows us to actually cleanse ourselves. Cleanse ourselves and bring the knowledge into experience. All the principles that we talk of, until we implement them and we learn them, until we actually do Nam Jap, when we actually experience that, oh, there is actually a choice. I actually can choose to be angry or not angry. Earlier, I thought, no, I don't have that choice. That guy did this. He did it. She did it. So I got angry. We've all been there. That I got angry. No, I'm not an angry person. I didn't get angry. That person made me angry. We've all been there. Or that person made me do this. We've all been there. Okay, when we start to do Karma Yoga is when we will start to realize, oh no, actually there's no power that an external situation has on me. I have a choice. I am doing something. I am making a choice, whether I recognize it or not, right? That will only come from experience. That will only come from Karma Yoga. That's the job of Karma Yoga. That's why you have to do Karma Yoga. Ultimately, Karma Yoga and Bhakti Yoga have to lead to Gyan and Gyan Yoga. So you know, at no point of time can you put your buddhi away and say, okay, this is it. No, I don't have to do it. I'll just do this like a mechanical robot. We're not robots. We're not expected to be robots. Bhagwanji does not want us to be robots. He wants us to question. At every point of time, Arjun questions. Okay, I'm repeating this because it is so important for us to constantly remember what is bhakti, why is it important, and why you cannot take gyan out of bhakti. Okay, there is no blindness to this whole thing. There is no dogmatism to anything we do. There is a science behind everything. We may not understand that science because we may not have the right tools, but if we continue to do with the faith that the principles I'm being taught is true, I will get there. Okay, but you have to constantly put it into practice. That's the only way for you to verify the principles and to make yourself subtler. All aspects of you, your chit, your mind, your brain, intellect, everything has to become subtle. Okay, so and that increase in consciousness of Arjun is also referred to in chapter 11, right? It starts by referring to him as Parth in Shlok 5, right? Parth, and he shows him when he starts to show his Vishwaroop Darshan to Arjun, he starts by referring to him as Parth, somebody with a very gross consciousness. Gross consciousness and he shows him only gross aspects of himself. Forms, naam and roop. Basically, naam and roop. Alag-alag colors, alag-alag different colors, different forms, different names, right? Things that can be perceived with our charm chakshu. Charm chakshu as in the physical eyes. Physical senses can experience something I can smell, something I can hear, something I can feel, something I can touch, right? So he starts with that. Then he elevates, then Arjun's consciousness is elevated. That's the next step. So now he refers to him as Bharat. Bharat is somebody whose Gyan Chakshu have opened up. Right? So Bharat is somebody jiska bharan ho chuka hai. Somebody who has been fully satisfied. He has no abhav. He has nothing to achieve any longer. He does not need other people to approve him. He does not need an external materialistic thing, physical, emotional, mental, to feel complete. He is whole and complete. Purnamada Purnamidam. Okay, so he is complete and whole and complete in himself. If you have ever read any self-help books, right? The ones that stand the test of time, they all end of the day ask you to repeat to yourself at some point of time. There are always these like, I am whole and complete. They always have that. I am whole and complete. Why is that reaffirmations always given? Because that is the universal truth. I am whole and complete at all points of time. Okay, so if I'm whole and complete at all points of time, can I love myself as I am today? Because I am whole and complete. Not love a version of myself that will come 10 years from now, my sense of ideal version that I'm working towards. No, can I love myself as I am today, with my vikars, with my vrittis, with all my sanskars as they stand today? And then the question comes, like, but you're saying I'm whole and complete, but I can see that I'm actually not whole and complete, right? I want this, I want that, I have these vikars. I can see I get angry. I can see that I have greed, I have avarice, I have jealousy, I have I have all of these issues which cause me to have all these different desires that I'm constantly seeking from outside, from other people. I'm constantly like seeking take from other people instead of being that giving person, right? So how do these two things tie together, right? How they tie together is when I say I am whole and complete, who am I? I'm not body mass complex. I'm not body-mind complex. I'm not this ahankar. I'm not this ego. I'm not these senses. I'm not this body. I am Atma. So I am whole and complete at all points of time. Understand who you are saying I am whole and complete. I am this Atma. I am Paramatma ka ansh. So I am whole and complete at all points of time. But these vikars that I experience, these vrittis that I experience, these are just dirt in my body-mind complex. But if they are there, they don't make me dirty. Okay? I am clean. I am pure. I am pavitra. Okay? It is these things in my body-mind complex that I need to cleanse. That's it. Okay? So I clean them. That's my job through my karma yoga to clean themselves. But that doesn't make me dirty. That does not make me incomplete. I continue to be whole and complete at all points of time. Right? And when I start to experience it that way, and I accept all my vikars as they are today. See, when we see, why do we not spend time with ourselves? We feel scared of spending time with ourselves. We don't spend time with ourselves because we get afraid of looking within. We're constantly looking outside. You have a little bit of time. This is another thing. You should note all of these things. Become aware of how you are being in daily life. When you have half an hour free, what are you doing? Can you just literally sit and be with yourself doing nothing? Don't switch on Netflix. Don't think about messaging somebody. Don't call somebody. Don't step out. Don't create work for yourself. Oh, I had to buy this. Oh, I had to meet this person. Oh, I had to give this to somebody. Oh, I had to cook this thing. Oh, I had to complete this to-do list. None of that. Can you sit for 30 minutes by yourself? Which typically does not actually happen. In most cases, if you have those 30 minutes, immediately your ego kicks in and is constantly running after another thing. Do this, do that. Da, 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 da. There's a never-ending list, never-ending list. It does not matter who you are. You're president of US, or whether you are somebody who is a janitor. Everybody's life is super busy. There's nobody you will meet in your life, nobody who will say my life is chilled. Everybody would say, yeah, I'm very busy. You ask anybody, everybody's lives are super busy. नहीं होता है काम हम बना लेते हैं भाई, हम खुद बनाते हैं, हम अपने आप को खुद बिजी करते हैं. Okay, and all of that happens because our ego wants to survive. So it is constantly seeking things outside, constantly seeking outside things. When you start to get internally focused, you will start to experience the world within. Okay, this is very, very important that we start to see our own behaviors. And what that allows us to do is, when you see some dirt, right? You see some problem with yourself, like you see some vikar, call it problem, but yeah, you see some vikar. Okay, see how my mind is behaving. See how I'm constantly seeking outside stuff. See how I got angry at that time. Like when you start to analyze, this is swadhyay, right? This is real swadhyay. When you do swadhyay like that of yourself, and you see these vikars, don't run away from them. Accept them. Accept them exactly as they are. Acceptance is the starting point of letting them go. If you don't accept them with compassion for yourself, very important, don't hate yourself for that, right? It doesn't make you dirty at all. It doesn't make you an ugly person. It is a part of this jad prakriti. You are Chetan, you are consciousness, your pure consciousness. This is part of the jad prakriti, the apara prakriti. Okay? So lean into them with compassion. What does lean into them with compassion mean? Ask yourself, why do I behave the way I do? What goes on? How am I thinking? What triggers an emotion? What triggers a thought? When you start to get to the core of it, when you start asking these questions with full compassion, okay, if you get angry with yourself, if you get upset with yourself, then your internal consciousness will switch off, just the way a child switches off when you start to scream at them. Then they will not work with you to understand why they did what they did. They will switch off the moment they experience a negative reaction from their parents. The only way to draw something out of a child is to be compassionate towards them and show them that you're not upset with them. You're just trying to help them. So you ask them questions and help them with a lot of love and compassion. When you do that to yourself, you are your internal child, you will start to ask yourself and you start to understand, what kind of emotions do I feel when something like this happens? Why do I feel that? You will ultimately get to a certain type of thought that gets triggered, which causes you to feel certain way, which causes you to act a certain way. It all starts from thought. Thought, which causes emotions. Emotions have a lot of energy, which will propel you to do certain actions. It's always that link. Thought, emotion, action. Ultimately, when you lean into your vrittis, you will get to that thought. First thought, second thought, third thought, until you get to the mool thought. Okay? And when you understand those thoughts and you understand what causes you to behave in a certain way, then you offer them to Bhagwanji and say, Bhagwanji, this is a vritti. I am committed to letting go of this, but I can't let this go by myself through my own Shakti, through my own Samarthya, through my own capabilities. I offer them to you. Please help me get rid of this. Take it away from me. I'm offering this as a sacrifice to you. This is my tyag. This is my sacrifice. This is the highest form of sacrifice you can do to Bhagwanji. Okay, so you do that. And once you do that, this is what is called doing swadhyay. This is real swadhyay. And this is what is required of us. And when we do that, and when we start to love ourselves exactly the way we are, because all the vrittis that come to fore in every situation, right? You may think I'm not an angry person. Suddenly, at one point of time, Bhagwanji, when he thinks it is right for you to know and you need to work on it, he will create a VVGP for you, which will cause that vritti to rise up for you to see, oh, this is something I need to work on. That's why VVGPs occur, right? So then you start to work on it. But when you do this and you start loving yourself, you can be compassionate to your own vikars. Your way of being with everybody else around you will change. If you love yourself with all your vikars, you will love everybody else with their vikars. You will accept them as they are and not try and change them. Because then the way, see, we are holograms, and this is what is going to come in these shlokas too. Bhagwanji says every part, what is he telling him? He told him at the end of chapter 10, that I hold this entire sansar in one small part of me. Mere ek ansh mein ye jagat sthit hai, he said. Mere ek ansh mein ye pura jagat sthit hai, usko dekh. A small part of me, which means, and we are his image, which is why jo andar hai, wo bahar hai. Every small aspect of us is represented outside. So when we love ourselves and accept ourselves, and we can see the divinity inside of ourselves and say, I am Atma, you will see Paramatma in everybody else, and you will love them with their vikars, because you understand that that is also an avaran, a veiling on top of Bhagwanji inside everyone else. And they are working through their own journey to let this avaran go, to let this veil go, so that they also appear and can completely be divine. Everybody is divine. That ability to see divinity is what Bhagwanji is showing us now. Get it? Okay. So Bharan Poshan, right? So somebody who gets to that stage of jo prapt hai, wahi paryapt hai. Jiska Bharan Poshan ho chuka hai, no abhav remains any longer, is Bharat. But again, as there were questions asked, let's remember always that jo prapt hai, wahi paryapt hai does not mean that we stop acting. That thought process comes from when we are activated by our lower impulses alone. When we are activated by only lower impulses, when we act from a space of separateness, then all our actions are motivated by Bharan Poshan. I have abhav, I have to get something to complete myself. I am incomplete. and I need to constantly work towards completing myself. Okay, when you're working to complete yourself, then you are constantly, then you are doing certain actions, right? But those actions are then not roasted seeds. These are seeds that will bear fruit for us. Then we are not acting out of karma yoga. Then we are acting out of selfish impetus. Okay, which basically means that we will constantly experience this ebb and flow of life. I'm very happy today, now I'm very sad. I'm happy, I'm sad. I'm happy, I'm sad. Just as assuredly as day follows night, follows day, follows night. We will experience that high and low of life constantly. We are not in Satchitanand. We will not achieve that happiness. We will achieve happiness when we act out of completeness. Jo prapt hai, wahi paryapt hai. And hence, I don't need anything from anybody. I'm whole and complete. I'm happy. When I'm happy and then I act because it is the right thing to do. Then I act out of full energy, full enthusiasm. There is nothing pulling my energy down. It's something for you to experience. I can say as much as I can, but when you actually start to work on it and you experience it yourself, then you will realize, oh, actually, it is actually untrue. What my earlier thought process was, that I will not act if I reach that stage of jo prapt hai, wahi paryapt hai. Actually, I can be a lot more efficient, a lot more enthusiastic about my work when I act from that space of completeness and from that space of jo prapt hai, wahi paryapt hai, and I only act based on what is my duty. Then I act with a lot more vigor, a lot more a lot more enthusiasm. Okay, so it's not like you will stop to act. You won't become complacent. Okay, it's a to-do for all of us to experience it. So we'll start with Shlok 7 now. Smita, you will read with us?
Sure. Should I read with the connection?
Yeah.
Yes. After mentioning the primal effulgences, the Lord exhorts Arjuna to have a perception of these primal entities as desired by him.
I'm hearing my... Okay. Smita, can you mute yourself when you're not speaking? Thank you. Ihe kastham jagatspritsnam.
Ihaikastam jagatkritsam.
Jagatkritsnam.
Jagatkritsnam.
Pashyadya sacharacharam.
Pasyadya sacharacharam.
Mam dehe gudakesha.
Mama dehe gudakeksha.
Yachanyad drashtumicchasi.
Yachanyad drashtumishchasi.
Very nice. Let's read.
O Gudakesha, now behold in my body the whole universe, movable and immovable, and also behold whatever else you desire to see.
So
Universe is the body of the Lord.
just 1 second, right? So we now talk about Partha, which is the gross form, earth. Then he refers to Arjuna as Bharata, which, as Tuvina explained, moves from gross to subtle. And now he's referring to Arjuna as Gudakesh. Gudakesh means one who is awake from sleep. That is the literal meaning. The understanding here is the one who awakes from delusion. Sleep means delusion. So now Bhagwanji is starting to share himself with Arjun because he's now awakened from the delusion.
And
Right?
this also means that what Bhagwanji is saying now, with nir-alasya, no alas, no laziness. Okay? Apply yourself with a lot of savdhani. Savdhani is sadhana. Okay? So he says, bilkul niralasya hokar, puri savdhani ke saath, now you listen to me. Okay? So that's also reference to Gudakesh. Don't sleep. Get out of that sleep. Get out of alas. Get out of laziness. and apply yourself with a lot of focus.
The second part, before we continue reading, is the word here that says behold. Right? This is a very direct communication for us to realize Bhagwanji exists within us. Even though Arjuna has asked, I want to see you and I want to see your many forms, he's not saying, okay, I'll show it to you. He's saying, hold it inside of you because it is inside of you.
Correct.
So even Bhagwanji is coming into body form, he's going to show everything to Arjun. It is not as if it's going to happen outside of him. It will all happen inside of us. So when we experience God, we will only experience it within ourselves. Don't expect it to be different from who you are right now. Right? Now we can continue.
I think that's another very important thing, right? There is going to be like this progression from Charam Chakshu to Gyan Chakshu to Divya Chakshu. So Charam Chakshu, Parth, see the physical forms. Gyan Chakshu is Shlok 6, where now you start to perceive things differently. The perception has to change. You won't see anything different with your eyes, but your perception and understanding is going to change. That will be Gyan Chakshu. This is Gyan Chakshu 6. So now 7 and 8 we'll do Divya Chakshu. Go ahead.
Yes. Universe is the body of the Lord. The word Gudakesha has already been explained in Shlok 9 of chapter 2. The word body gives an impression that the Lord is perhaps a super person with a body like that of a human being. This impression is reinforced by the pictures made by the artist in an attempt to portray subtle entities. There is no harm in such representations, so long as it is understood that these portrayals are only aids to comprehension of some highly subtle concepts and not actual replicas.
So
The words movable and immovable are designed to convey the sense of two contradictory entities manifested together in the visualization of the cosmic form. This is a unique feature of divine manifestation. Ordinarily, it is not possible for the human faculties to comprehend two contradictory entities together. But the capability to visualize unity and diversity together results in an extraordinary power of comprehension. This is one of the siddhis or extraordinary competences acquired by yoga given in Sutra 36 of Vibhuti Pad of Patanjali Yoga Sutras.
Yeah.
Perception of the self gives rise to the subtle powers of hearing, touch, sight, taste, and speech.
You want to say something?
Yeah. So the first part, right? We always think of Bhagwanji as that ideals that we see and in those physical forms. And that is how we think he will be. But in this shloka, what he's telling you is those forms are there only because you relate to them. Your perception right now is that of Partha, the gross form. So you only relate to the sights and shapes that are relatable. So if you see Bhagwanji as a Krishna in a body form, it is relatable. So you feel you can pray. Ganesha, you're like, you say, how does a human have an elephant head? All of us have asked this question growing up, right? Because we are coming from the Partha intellect. Now he's saying the real me, you will not be able to behold or see with any of these intellects. But I am now going to manifest myself in a way that is relatable to you. Right? So that's the first part. You want to talk more of that?
Yeah. Yeah. I think the most important thing here is to understand this fact that universe is the body of the Lord. Right? Ihe kastham jagat kritsnam pashya sacharacharam mamadehe. Right? Here, what he's saying is that ek ansh mein, now you perceive the whole world. Chara, charam. Sa, chara, acharam. Movable and immovable. Okay, movable means everything that you can imagine, right? Like human beings, devtas, rakshas, brahma rakshas, bhoot, pashu, pakshi, animals, birds, insects, whatever, everything that moves. Okay. Acharacharam, ghas, podhe, trees, pahad, right? All of those things also you see inside of me. And he's saying that this world is my body. This world is my body. Whatever you see around you, wherever you will put your eye, that's my body. So when you are working with the sansar, you're working with me. Okay. And like Abhinav said, we relate to, when somebody is trying to make you understand, if somebody has had a certain vision, okay, a divine vision, and he's trying to explain that divine vision, when he explains, the moment he's trying to say something, the moment he's trying to draw that concept, the moment he's trying to sing a concept, in any form of expression, he's trying to express what he saw, what he experienced. In that moment, it has become restricted and limited because there are limitations to our senses and there are limitations to the tools we have. Okay, so they try and fit that. For example, when you see Bhagwanji's murti, like Ganesha's murti, you may have seen often with 4 heads or sometimes 8 heads. What does that represent? Or any other Bhagwanji. There are a lot of Bhagwanjis where the murtis have been made by the artists with 4 or 8 heads, 8 arms, right? Or 4 arms. What is that supposed to represent? What artist is actually trying to convey is not that there are actually physically, there are real 4 heads or 8 heads or 8 arms. He's trying to express through that limited way he can express the fact that he's omnipotent. Bhagwanji is omnipotent, who looks in all 4 directions or all 8 directions. His eyes are in 8 directions. His hands are in 8 directions. So he's omnipresent. He's omnipotent. He sees everything. He hears everything in every direction at all times, and he acts in all directions. That is the concept that is being represented through that. So when we read this, when we look at this with our eyes, we may see something physical, but it's our gyan chakshu that have to kick in to understand what is being expressed in these poetical fantasies. There is a reality behind these poetical fantasies that are being represented by what may seem supernatural or weird to our physical eyes or physical senses. Okay. And also, so for example, another example would be we see Bhagwanji's Bhagwanji's representations, you see a halo around them, a yellow halo, right? Now, with that yellow halo, you don't actually expect to see a yellow halo emanating from somebody, right? What it is supposed to tell you is that there is something divine here that must be perceived beyond what your physical eyes perceive. You have to experience the divinity inside of you. The perception has to change. That is what is being expressed through that yellow halo that is shown. Okay? Yeah, Bhagyashree.
So here it says that, body gives an impression that the Lord is perhaps a person with a body like that of human being, but this is just a representation, made by the artist. So is that not how he is? The way we see Krishna or Ganesha, the way we see Krishna is dressed or what he looks like, is that not how he is?
No.
Then
it cannot be that way. He's just representing himself that way to make himself relatable to you.
Understandable to us.
So that we can understand him. Because our ability to perceive certain things is so limited. He's obviously not that at all. He's Anadi. He's Akshay. He's everywhere. He's omnipresent and omnipotent. That is why some of the representations of him are with 4 heads or 8 heads. To show that he's very different from anything we can perceive or even imagine.
Easiest way for you to visualize it is, and the easiest way for you to visualize this is look at universal energy. everything that powers the world, the subtle behind it, that is his hand. That's only his hand. We can't see the rest. That's what Tuna is saying. That's only his ansh, a small part of him.
So we can never know how he is.
Only when we merge into him,
Then
we'll
only
be able
we'll-
to see him.
we will fully understand him only when we become him. Then you will understand. As long as there is any level of separateness, you cannot really understand who he really is. And you, even when you fully understand who he really is, once you become that realized soul, then your job would be what? To explain to other people. But you will not be able to explain to other people what exactly he is. And that's when you will try to use whatever you have. So you're trying to say, as an artist, you're trying to say he's omnipresent. Say, like, how do I show that he's omnipresent?
So,
Okay, I will show it with four heads, like, oh, eyes and ears in every direction.
so
You get where we're coming from?
I'll give you two examples. One is electricity, right? We can see manifestations that and applications that are built using electricity. And we intellectually know there's electricity which makes all of this work. But we can't see it, we can't experience it, we can't hear it. None of that happens. And as we know in science now, energy never dissipates. It only keeps transforming from one form to the other, to the one form to the other.
Energy
The
never
constant-
dies. Energy never gets destroyed, right? That's physical law of nature.
So,
Neither created nor destroyed.
Yeah.
so that is one thing for you to think of. The second is milk.
Okay, can I just stop there for 1 second? Energy can never be created or destroyed is a very, very powerful physical law of nature we've understood, which tells you exactly who Bhagwanji is. This is exactly what Bhagwanji is. Bhagwanji is energy. Bhagwanji is what? Bhagwanji is Anant, Anadi, can never be created, can never be destroyed. Right? He can never be created, he's never destroyed. He only transforms himself in various forms through his Maya Shakti. That is Bhagwanji.
So if we were to pray to energy, we would be praying to electrical power plants. Because
Not necessarily. Electricity is one form of energy.
Correct. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Right. But the second example is milk. Right. If a person has never tasted milk, can you give him the experience of milk using words? It's very hard. You would say it's liquid, slightly creamy. There is something that, there is a film on top of it, but it's not like water. Oh, it's actually heavier. It is sweeter than water. It's very hard for that person to actually experience it. Right? So there is a lot of loss in translation when it comes into gross form.
Absolutely. That's a very good example.
Right? So what Bhagwanji is saying, you can only experience me, my real form. The moment I come into gross form, I come into a form that you understand.
And immediately that becomes limited.
That immediately becomes limited.
But the gross form existed, right? I don't know, 5,000 years ago when Krishna was born as a baby. In the stories we see, there was Krishna's mom Yashoda, there was baby, he grew up in that village, he had gopis,
I
he
would
had
say
cow. So
Yeah,
is
so I
that
would say
true?
this, Kageshri, all of these Mahabharat, Ramayan, they are considered to be historical religious texts. Okay. And without getting into the argument about whether Ram existed as a person or not, Krishna existed as a person or not, because that is irrelevant whether they existed or not. But what is very important is for us to know that by historians it is considered to be historical in nature, okay, because they can figure out whatever, but I'm not going to get into it.
So in chapter 9 in the Gita itself, Bhagwanji says, I come and manifest myself every now and then when the world goes in a different path.
So it is not just Krishna in that one Krishna.
It's not just Krishna in that one form.
Yeah.
God has manifested himself in numerous forms, in multitudes of time.
Yeah.
To direct world a certain way. And he's consistently done that. Tomorrow, when we become realized saints, people will look at us as Bhagwan's avatar because we are. We've merged with his entity. So there is God for roaming even today in among us.
There are
If
lots of
realize
realized souls
All
even
of
today
us
amongst
are
us.
also gods, but we have just attached ourselves to the sansaric form of us rather than the true nature of ourselves. So Krishna is that. He came in body form. He was a realized saint. He was a avatar of Bhagwanji, and that's why we pray to him.
Yeah, but here's another very important thing to realize, Bhagyashree. When we read these accounts, right, some of the aspects in these accounts seem supernatural. Okay, there are poetical fantasies that have been used to help explain which otherwise cannot be explained. Always remember the example that Abhinav is giving you, that you cannot explain what is milk to a person who's never drunk milk. So you will try and explain, you will do all kinds of things to try and explain it, but end of the day, that person will only experience it when he walks the path and actually drinks the milk himself. And that is what is being done here. And that is what our focus should be. Not about whether there was that one Krishna, whether that actual Mahabharata battle happened or not, because there is a Mahabharata happening inside of us on a daily basis. And that is really the main thing for us to work on. There are Kauravas and Pandavas inside us at all points of time. We need to walk that path. And then all the other questions will get answered along the way.
So then, is it okay to relate to God's gross form, like let's say the idol or Krishna, or the image, how Krishna looks, or
Just
how the nature
okay.
looks?
It's not just okay. You have to do it. You know why you have to do it? You have to do it because our consciousness is so gross that there is no other way for us to really, really develop a relationship with him. We have to treat him in some roop and naam. Okay, in some form of roop and naam.
So
You choose what roop and naam that you relate well to him with, whether it is Krishna, whether it is Ram, whether it is Ganesh, whether it is Murugan, whoever you choose, what roop and naam you want to give him. It is him who is represented in all these roop and naam. It does not matter how you choose to pray to him. You don't choose to pray to him in the form of idol. You choose to pray to him as sun god. You choose to pray to him through a mantra. They are all roop and naam. And they are all different forms of him. Sakar, Nirakar, and Nirgun. Sakar and Sagun. We are Sakar and Sagun. The way we have to relate to him is Sagun and Sakar roop of him to begin with. But ultimately, the idea is to get to understand his Nirgun Nirakar roop, which we will when we merge with him. And once our level of consciousness rises up, all of these are crutches. Trying to relate to him with a relationship, a human relationship. That human relationship can be that of, I am your sevak, I am your son, your daughter, or as a mother, like Yashodhara had a relationship of son with him. You can choose your relationship, a human relationship, and you choose a human form, or an animal form, or a prakriti ka form, or a mantra ka form, गाने का form. वो आपकी इच्छा है. Whatever connects you. We are 7 billion people with different levels of consciousness. We will connect to him differently. And that's okay. But remember, it does not matter which way you connect to him. You will connect to him in some form of Sagun Sakar roop. Only. Because that is our limitation. We are Sagun Sakar people. Our consciousness hasn't elevated beyond that at this point of time. But once our consciousness elevates beyond that, no, all of these are crutches. They will fall away. Then you don't have to do Upasana. Then you don't have to do Mantrocharan. Then you don't have to do any of these things because we will stay established in him. Then there is no karma for you to do. There is no karma. There is no 10 duties. You have to have a brahmacharya, you have to have a grahasthashram, you have to have a sannyas ashram, you have to have a vanprasthashram. None of that will apply to you any longer when you have gone past that.
So
these are only crutches for us while we as a way for us to reach forward. Make sense?
So I'll just add here for Bhagyashree. So all these Sansar knows very loud, glamorous, and attractive. And we all know we have no control over our minds. It floats constantly towards sansar or the next shiny object. Physical forms of Bhagwanji and murtis and idols are ways for us to pray and reach to that subtle, but are also constant reminders to us on what to focus on.
Hmm.
So when I was younger, I used to get quite annoyed at all the temples in India in the middle of the street that creates traffic jam, or पेड़ के नीचे temple बना दिया and वहाँ पे लोग pray कर रहे हैं. So what is this? But now when I go, every time I see one, it just reminds my subtleness that hey, that is what is real. That is why these exist. They're constant reminders. So now even in our house, we have idols everywhere or pictures because it's the constant reminder for us to focus on that real. Because that is my limited ability. Without that crutch, it is my mind will just float away. Yes,
another-
Kakuli.
Yeah, okay. Let's have Kakali. But I have one more thing to add here, right? Our mind is a genie. Okay. Our mind is a genie that will give us whatever we want. It is very powerful. We have all talked about that a lot of times, right? Our mind is super powerful too. It is that genie, that proverbial genie, the Kamadhenu. You ask something and it will come and give it to you. And then you're like, okay, sounds awesome, but I don't experience it. I tell my mind, give me this, give me that, give me that. It doesn't happen. It doesn't manifest itself. You know why? Because we do not hold our mind still enough on a single thought long enough for that wish to get manifested. It's like having the genie come out of the diya, and then you out of the lamp, and then you tell genie, I want A, and genie starts to get come back, come back, come back. No, I want B. Okay, come back, come back, come back. I want C. Come back, come back. D, E. He'll just keep coming back to listen to your new wish. So he'll never be able to manifest any of your other wishes. That's what we do to our minds. The most important thing, the most important decision you ever make in your life on a daily basis is what do you focus, what thought you focus your mind on, and what thought you hold on to. That's the single most and the only important decision you make throughout the day. Everything else just happens by itself. So if you allow your mind to flit from one thought to another just like that, then you're not creating anything for life. So which is why all these manifestations of Bhagwanji, why do I hold this counter with me all the time? When I don't have it, trust me, I lose track of my Nam Jap. Having this on my hand is such a constant reminder that I stay connected. One day I go to office forgetting this at home, and my Nam Jap will be half or 1/4 or 20% of what I generally do when this is with me. It acts as a powerful reminder to me. What does this mean? My consciousness hasn't reached a point where I can continue to stay in that Nam Jap. I can continue to stay in that space constantly. I need this crutch. There would be a time when I would not need this any longer, but that's not today. Someday, this will be unnecessary. In fact, not just unnecessary, it will become a badha in my further growth. At that stage, there is no attachment to this. Leave it. This is no longer required for my sadhana. Leave it, move on. What is the next step required for my sadhana? You move on to that. Okay, but today, this is a very important crutch for me. Without it, I cannot progress. So I need it. But I have no attachment to this. The day this will become a badha in my journey, leave it, move on. Next step. Okay? So all the upasanas, all the rituals, all the actions, all the karma, everything that is being there is for our current state of being. Tomorrow, they will no longer be required as we move past them in our journey. Just like a child grows out of his toys, as he grows and he learns through them. He will learn through them and he'll move on. That's the only way to look at all these things, everything. There's nothing more to it. Don't attach any divinity to it. I mean, of course, there is divinity to it only
Don't
because of
get
Bhagwan,
attached to
but
it.
don't get attached to anything.
Kakali, you have a question? You're on mute.
Mute, Kakali.
Yeah, I'll just try to frame this, and because we are in a group which we all believe in the same God, so I'm just taking the liberty. You know, every time I get into a satsang, or from the time I got introduced to Gita through you, or Ramcharitmanas, we have these scriptures, the rituals, and everything we speak about. It all leads us to understand that finally the journey is to merge into Him or to realize Him. What about the rest of mankind who doesn't believe in Hinduism or who are not born Hindu? Is there a study or something where those scriptures are also finally aligned to the way we take forward our belief and our belief and our spiritual journey? Like, is it, sometimes I feel, and it is wrong, I know, that is it like I was in a more evolved journey, that I was born a Hindu because I got these scriptures. I have read the Bible extensively when I was in school. I don't see so much of these kind of discussions happening there, and I don't know about other religious books. So, it's a question which I thought I'll just ask. I always wanted to ask someone, and I don't know why I'm asking it today.
It's a fair question to ask, and thank you for asking the question. But I'll tell you a few things. One is, imagine all religions, imagine a cycle, right? A cycle wheel, the wheel of a cycle has spokes, right? And in the center of the spoke is a hole. Each of the spokes actually reflects the different religions of the world, and the center is where everyone is merging. And there are professors, there are PhDs, there's a lot of books written about it on the subtle principles across all of these books are identical. They're more or less the same. It's just that, like you said, the Bible did not appeal to you because in your past life you may not have read it as much.
Or you did not understand it because
subtlety.
you read it at a time when you were not that present or awake.
Yeah.
If you read Bible today, or if you take up any study of any religion in this world, you would realize that core principles are exactly the same for every religion in this world. You know why? Because we are all exactly the same. We are all, you take any human being in any culture, in any country, at any point of time, in belonging to any economic strata, belonging to any class. It does not matter who you pick. They are dealing with the same set of fears, anxiety, same things about what they want, what they don't want. We are all operating in exactly the same way. And every religion that has endured in this world has the same core principles. Now, whether those core principles actually get applied properly in their true form, or whether people get dogmatic about them and start using them for their own benefit, is a different thing.
And that's not for us to comment on at all, right?
I mean, even in Hinduism,
So
you've seen the
even-
Sanatan Dharma, and then you've seen the dogmatic versions of it, which we all have detested at some point of time in our lives, right?
So-
It's true for every religion.
So-
when it becomes dogmatic and people just start to use them as a source of gaining further power over the society for their own self-interest.
Yeah.
It's a different thing.
And almost all of the religions have exactly the same goal, which is merge to God in the form of heaven, in the form of everything else that they talk about. The second part that I wanted to talk about, Kakoli, and this is more important, is the rise of spiritual ego that comes when we start reading. Gita is a book and it's a principle for us to work on our own antakaran, not to
Judge others.
not to compare it to anything else. Let's have the humility that I am not a Muslim. I have not been trained in reading the Quran with a person who is knowledgeable about the Quran for me to understand the subtle aspect. Right? But if you're genuinely curious, do it. Read a few books, have that conversation. It will.
But first,
I
do
can-
the homework to find who is the right source to give it to you.
So in your mind,
Right? Gita ke bhi, you know how many sources are there and how many misrepresentations are there. So many people I've heard in my life, and all my life, in fact, I've heard about how, Krishna talks about war. He endorses war. How many of us have heard it again and again, right? So there are a lot of misrepresentations of Gita as well, which people can outside read and then say, this is what Gita is all about. But they've really not understood Gita, right?
Yeah.
It does not change anything about Gita. It just shows that they've not understood it.
and the one reason why Gita is very popular among all theology professors or scientists is that it is a very clear book on principles, on not rights and wrongs, but if you do this, this will happen. If you do this, this will happen. Clear cause and effect of the entire concept, and
Yeah.
which is why
Like if
they
you
also
think about
written.
Bible, if you think about Quran, or if you think about a lot of other things, right? They tend to be like Bhagavatam. They tend to be like Ramcharitmanas,
Yes.
where they are stories being told of people and how they have lived certain principles. But people get stuck in stories. They get stuck in stories, like they get stuck in stories about Ram. Oh, Ram, how is he Maryada Purushottam Ram? He let his wife go. Right? People get stuck in stories because they don't understand the principles behind them. So,
And just like
Yeah.
Hinduism, as Tuna said, people get stuck on concepts. Adi Purush movie, one seat is left for Lord Ganesh. Some person sat there, 5 people beat him up. That is just like, it's fun
Yeah.
how far away.
and those are very far from the principles that we are
Let's-
reading.
Let's finish the shloka and then let's do takeaways. It's already 11:38.
Ooh, okay. Okay.
So we finished reading. Do you want to talk about
Yeah, the
second
last part. Yeah. So we did the up till Mamdehe, Guda, Kesh, you've understood. Yachanyat Drashtumichhasi. Okay. Whatever else you want to see in me is what he's saying here. Okay. What is being referred to is that Bhagwanji is beyond time. Whatever you want to see, whether it is past, present, or future, everything is visible to him at the same time. So he's telling Bhagwanji that he's telling Arjun that you can see the present, but you can also see the past, you can also see the future. Whatever you want to see in me.
See, it's also interesting because this chapter has started with Arjun asking Bhagwanji, I want to see your full self. I want to be able to see you and experience you. Bhagwanji knows what his real, that he has a hidden desire here. His bhav is correct, but he has a hidden desire.
Still has
And that
hidden desire,
hidden desire is the outcome of the war.
which he had asked in chapter 1. I don't even know who will win this
Correct.
war. Will the Pandavas win this war? Will Kauravas win this
So
war?
he knows his hidden desire is to see the outcome of the war. And this is where Bhagwanji very subtly tells him,
See what you want to see.
See what you
Whatever
desire to
else you
see.
want to see.
but that is also being served to us.
Hmm.
We will see exactly what we desire. You desire Bhagwanji, you will see Bhagwanji. You desire other things, that's what you will see in this world and his Maya.
And this also shows that, while Arjun thinks that he has arrived, he thinks that now I have Drad Vishwas on you. I have full faith in who you are. I fully understand, all of those things. But Bhagwanji knows that he's not arrived yet. Bhagwanji knows us better than we think we know ourselves.
He's not the chapter 18 Arjun yet.
He's not chapter 18 yet. Bhagwanji knows that, but Arjun doesn't know it. In fact, at every progress that Arjun makes, you see every chapter he's made certain progress, right? At every step, Arjun thinks he's arrived. Everything he says, every time he says, oh yeah, I've understood all of this. Oh my God, like this is amazing. I understood it. Now I've arrived. And then Bhagwanji says, yep, okay, I get it. You've arrived till here. This is good, but there is still a journey to be gone ahead with. So he continues and he says, now listen again. Now I'll take you to the next level. You've arrived here, but you've only arrived here. You've not arrived where you need to be. But Arjun doesn't know this because he does not know Bhagwanji Swarup. Bhagwanji knows his Swarup. He knows where he has to lead Arjun.
And this subtleties for us to reflect upon. Are we really reading the Gita to experience God, or are we doing it so that people think, "Oh, wow, you're reading Gita"? Is it fueling a pride about ourselves with our own selves?
I mean, it will always fuel a pride. Let's be very clear about it. Reading Gita, every one of us will go through several rounds of spiritual ego rising inside of us. Okay, not just once, hundreds of times, again and again and again. And every time we have to be savdhani is sadhana. Every time we have to become aware of it. Every time we have to offer it as a sacrifice to Bhagwanji. Sorry, Bhagwanji, abhiman aa gaya. I am offering it to you. Take it away from me. The moment you become aware is the moment that that dosh will start to get weakened inside of you, and it will over a period of time get erased, just like a stain gets erased when you keep cleaning it doesn't get cleaned just like that. The harder the stain, the longer it takes to clean, but we have to continue to keep cleaning it. And cleaning it means becoming aware of it, accepting it, understanding it, leaning into it, and then offering it to God as a sacrifice. Over a period of time, Bhagwanji will take care of it. It will get taken away from you. Right? So that is very, very important. But spiritual ego is 100% reality for all of us. There is no person out here who will not go through this again and again. But if we don't accept that we will go through it, we will never be able to cure ourselves of that disease. Okay.
You want to explain the contradictory thing? I think we covered it last.
Yeah, it's been covered. It's okay. We'll move on. Yeah.
The
8 and 9 will cover.
The only thing to highlight here is that very last line, which is perception of the self gives rise to the subtle powers of hearing, touch, sight, taste, and speech. And this is to understand that everything that we see, taste, the real experience of it is not on the gross. The real experience is at the subtle level. And I'll share a story. I'll share a story here. So Paramahansa Yogananda, sorry, I'm very bad with Paramahansa Yogananda, in his autobiography, he writes about going to visit Mahatma Gandhi's ashram. Okay? And he reaches there, and he reached during dinner time or whatever. So Gandhiji laid out a thali, and he had gone with someone else. And in that thali, there was roti, sabzi, dal, all of that. And he says, but Gandhiji's thali had a special extra like chutney. So he's like, what is that? He's like, oh, would you like to try some? It's very healthy. He said, okay. He says, ye neem ki chutney hai. It is chutney made out of neem, the neem ka leaves. And Paramahansa and Yogananda had a thing that was so bitter, he couldn't eat it. And Mahatma Gandhi was eating it just like green chutney. So he's like, Gandhiji, how are you able to eat it? He says, the moment you realize the real seed of taste lies in the mind and not the tongue, you'll be able to enjoy it. That means the moment you realize I'm eating this because it's actually good for my body and healthy for my body and will make my body sharper, stronger, better, you will start enjoying it because the real taste is there, not on the tongue. Right? That's what that line basically tries to highlight.
I mean, if any one of us have grown up and now have started liking Loki or Tori or Karela, we all know that as kids, we did not like it, right? We all would make a face of eating it. Kaddu, Tinda. I'm sure all of us as kids did not like those sabzis. But over a period of time, as we grow up, today we will eat the same thing happily and actually enjoy it. It's the seed of taste is in our mind. And same thing for beer, for that matter, right? Like beer is such an acquired taste, or truffles or mushrooms, right? These are not stuff that we like on day one. But somewhere along the line, we teach ourselves to like those things because of the experience our mind associates with them. Right? So that's why, for example, I keep telling Abhinav that celebration in Abhinav, in Vedant's mind, shouldn't mean McDonald's. Otherwise he will think McDonald's is the most awesome thing in the world because his experience of all happy moments are associated with McDonald's. Like he wants to eat McDonald's, just make sure that you eat McDonald's at the non-celebratory times so that you reduce the number of happy moments that are associated with it. It's literally just that. It's your mind playing games.
So now on birthdays, we eat Loki.
Okay, let's do some takeaways. Who wants to go first? Maybe I'll call out then from the top one that I see on the screen. We'll start with Smita.
Kakuli raised hand.
From the top. We'll go down like this.
I think I've missed a few classes, so I'm not really familiar with the format of these takeaways. So we just say whatever we learned in this shlok or what in the class.
Whatever you have learned and what is your takeaway from what you learned today and what do you think you want to work on or implement, any of those things. But like very short and crisp, like a couple of sentences.
Okay. Actually, when we were going through the Shlok 7 and, the whole discussion that was happening around Krishna and, the subtle form, the gross form, I think in my own experience, every time as you are learning, as you are growing, as you are being a little more aware, you do experience the presence of Lord in little things. Like once I was missing my family a lot and a phone call came from a friend inviting me next day to her house. I remember that very categorically, that how that made that sudden despondency to that bright happiness. So I will always remember that one incident. And many similar incidences have happened to me where I feel, oh, he's watching me. So he is taking care of me when I'm really down there. Like little things do happen to us. So it's about noticing it. I think it would have happened before also. I wouldn't have noticed, but probably I notice it more. I should notice even more, because his grace and presence is always there. It's about us noticing it. So, I think, the takeaway would be to kind of notice these presence, his surrounding, how he always is around us and giving us that, that fuzziness always around us is there. So, that would be my takeaway.
Very nice. So in chapter 10, he told us about his Vibhuti Yoga, right? And what did he do when he was telling about his Vibhutis? He only gave a glimpse of his Vibhutis through the most spectacular aspects. Because he said, boss, you cannot that doesn't mean that his Vibhutis are only in those most spectacular things. Right? This is exactly what Smita is now sharing. That she's able to first of all, we didn't recognize his grace in the first place. Now our consciousness is rising. So you're beginning to see his grace in certain aspects, right? Certain moments stand out to us immediately for whatever reason they are important to us, which means that these are those moments of spectacularness that shine out to us. Okay. And we are able to recognize his presence there. Ultimately, our consciousness, as it keeps rising and rising, we will be able to see his hand and his grace in the most mundane of the things, to a point where we will reach where we will be sthit in him. And then we experience him at all points of time. But today we are not there, which means that we will constantly get out of balance. We'll experience him, then we won't experience him. Our job is to constantly do satsang, swadhyay, and namjap, upasana, to make sure that we don't stay out of balance for too long. These crutches will help us get us back into balance super quickly so that we can experience his grace more and more in more number of moments. Instead of like 1 moment a day, or it goes to 10 moments a day, it goes to 100 moments a day, to a point where it goes to every second of the day. Beautiful. Thank you, Smita. Nena?
My takeaway would be that divinity is experiential, whatever, based on the level of perception which we have reached. Like I have had the similar question like Kakoli had about what about the rest of humanity, which is not associated with Gita. But like you said, I think everybody connects with their religious books based on their level of perception. So they will find what they need wherever they are at that point in life.
Absolutely. Like Jesus, do you believe from any other point of view that he was anything but a realized soul? He did not need Hinduism.
All the prophets, I guess, yeah, they were realized souls at some point who have given them some things which has been interpreted in a certain way
Yes.
and has been used for different purposes.
And there are
So
amazingly
our,
realized souls in every culture in this world,
So-
even today,
so
in
our
every
son
country.
Vedant went through a phase where he used to love Christian songs.
Jesus.
The songs about Jesus. And we have these OK Googles, and he would just play these songs morning to night. And we used to love listening to it because the subtle message in those songs were exactly the same as Gita.
And it's
Exactly
amazing,
the
right?
same.
Like,
And we used to really enjoy listening to
Yeah.
these songs, and we still do. Like we still play them in our house, and we love it.
and it's amazing because we did not really expose him to Jesus. One child came into our house one evening and told him about Jesus, of how he has prayer about Jesus, and he played one song of Jesus. And see the impression it created on Abhinav, on Vedant. He held on to it so tight that after that, for a year, not just us, our neighbor's son, all of them are constantly just listening to songs. So we would like have dinners together as family, and after that we are playing Jesus songs and we are all singing together. And the main essence is exactly Gita.
And his Christmas gift was, I want Jesus on a cross.
Yeah.
I wanted Jesus necklace. Where it comes from, we don't
We
know.
don't
But
But
know
his
the principles
sanskar
are there.
somewhere, which held on to the concept of Jesus. We tried reading him Bible and all after that, and he wasn't interested. He was only interested in those songs and his imagination. Right?
Anyway, that's good.
Bhagishri.
So like you said before we read the shlok that, we have to go through the struggle and then we have to fall in love with him, right? So that's I think kind of true. That's what we all experience. Like, oh, I am struggling. I should be angry, but in the process, I'm more and more in love with him. So yeah. And about the gross and subtle form, it's kind of difficult to understand how it is, but then maybe like Abhinav said in like in chapter 9, he said that he will come in various forms. So maybe like I don't know, maybe he came in form like Krishna, and but the Gita is in gross form, right? So somebody wrote these words. It came from somewhere. So I don't know, maybe he existed in a gross form, but so we can so that we can relate to the gross form, but then there's a subtle form which we should be aware of. Yeah.
The Gita was not written by somebody. It was not thought of by somebody. It's a song spoken by God himself. How did it get written? It started as a Shruti, and then it got written over a period of time. Okay. Shruti is what was told by by sound. You only spoke it. It was never written down. Okay. All our Vedas, all our Upanishads, Bhagavatam, all of these are Shrutis. Okay.
So it was spoken.
They were given by Guru to Shishya, through that parampara, it was given down. And then, of course, when we started to write, they got written down. But the point is that they were given to us by Bhagwanji. Some realized saint heard it. It was downloaded to him. He did not think of it through his intellect. It was downloaded when he connected to the Lord. That intelligence was downloaded to him and he was inspired to write it out. Just like Tulsi Das ji, when he became a realized soul and he connected to the Lord, he was inspired to write down the Ramcharitmanas for the benefit of others. As Vedavyas was, when he got connected, it was downloaded to him to write out the 4 Vedas and to write Ramayana.
So it's like somehow the subtle form gave it
connects to
that
us.
realized thing.
Yeah, you connect to Bhagwan Ji, and through those connections, you get a supernatural intelligence that guides you to do certain things. And that's how these realized saints work.
And Gita is a narration by Sanjaya to Dhritarashtra. Sanjaya, if you chapter 1, shlok 2, we talked about it. Sanjaya means divine sight.
Yeah.
He
was given that divine sight.
Sanjaya, as the charioteer, exemplifies or represents a discerning intellect which has been spiritually awakened and sharpened by the constant study of scriptures. That is why it is Sanjaya who is narrating this to Dhritarashtra.
Correct. And Sanjay got this Divyadrashti through his Guruji Vedavyas. Vedavyas gave him the Divyadrashti. Okay, so what does it mean that he gave him Divyadrashti? It wasn't like, you got a Divyadrashti, right? The concept is that he got this Divyadrashti by studying, by doing his Karma Yoga, by doing his Bhakti Yoga over yawns. And then Vedavyas as his guru helped him get to that last level where he got Divya Chakshu. Okay. Anmol?
I think for me, the same point, the appreciation. So basically, just the appreciation for the point that the God's true form is not the same as what we see in the artist's work, but it's much more beyond that. And just appreciating the fact that many times what we know and what we perceive is limited because what we are at this moment. We need to continue to evolve to perceive more and more things. So that's one point. And second is the divinity is in the experiential knowledge, not the intellectual knowledge. So what we learn here is just the first step to understand, but there is so much more to do to attain divinity or moksha beyond what we learn in this class.
Absolutely. Getting that intellectual knowledge to experiential knowledge is our journey. And Karma Yoga and Bhakti Yoga help us to do that exactly.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Kakuli?
Yeah, for me, there are two things. One is when you said that apply yourself without laziness, because I think that's the first excuse whenever like I'm traveling. Last week, I didn't give my Ramcharitmanas takeaway because I was traveling. It would have been, I mean, it's just maybe half an hour to sit and read or listen, but then that becomes an excuse, and it's more because of laziness, not because of want of time. And it's kind of a warning, or has come at a time when I have to start reading those dohas more regularly. So thank you for that. And the second is what you said about curbing of spiritual ego. I've seen I've anyway, from the time I started Gita, I've really reduced a lot of my friend circle. I mean, with very like-minded people. But even in that, sometimes I'll tell, oh, suppose someone says something, some issue. I said, why don't you get into a Gita class? You'll get your answers. Now I feel, was it more to, help, or it's just to show, I'm being benefited a lot? That's spiritual egoism. And I think I need to be a bit more careful about that. Yeah.
Beautiful. Beautiful, Kakuli.
Sanchita?
Yeah, I think, what you said today, one thing stayed with me that, that if you start from a space of happiness, if you are completely accepting yourself, then, you start seeing divinity around you. You start accepting people more easily. And I've seen that, in my day-to-day life as well. Days when I start, being at peace, days when I start on a happy note, I'm more, the challenges that come throughout the day, I'm able to deal with them in a much better way, with a better frame of mind, take decisions that are, far, I think, informed. Whereas as compared to days when, when I'm not, in that happy, or, I'm stressed out, and therefore, anything that I do throughout the day, you can really, it really shows in my actions. So I think that's something that I've been trying to do regularly. And as a practice, I actually do a gratitude journal in the morning. I actually write Nam Jap, 11 times. And I think those has helped me, start the day on a better note. And today, so when you said that, if you're happy, you're more accepting of others, you see others, you're able to accept things the way they are. I think that really stood out for me, and that's something that I need to practice more of.
That's a fantastic takeaway, Sanchita. This is exactly like converting our learning to experience, right? And this is why the recommendation is that when you wake up in the morning, first thing you do is do puja, do swadhyay. When you ground yourself in a space of upasana, what does doing upasana or doing puja mean? That you ground yourself as knowing that I am Atma and I'm not body mind complex. I am part of Paramatma. So grounding yourself in the truth, grounding yourself in the truth that you are Satchidanand and this world is a mithya. And then connecting to everything in this world, and everything I see, Bhagwan, universe is the body of the Lord. That everyone that I will interact with, everything I will interact with, I'm interacting with the Lord. When I start off from that space, then I start off from a space of completeness and wholeness. I start off from a space of Satchidanand. And then, as Sanchita explained, your entire day becomes easier to handle. Your duties become easier to manage. And you walk a better path. And that means you stay in a state of equanimity. And that equanimity is yoga. And when you are in yoga, your actions are most efficient. Samatvam yog uchyate. Right? And then when you are in yoga, your actions are most efficient. Karmasu kaushala. When you are in yoga, your karma are very kaushal. And that is something you will experience. You will know for a fact when you do this again and again and again and again. After 6 months of this practice, you'll be like, I'm 100% sure of this because I've experienced it. I know it. Now I don't need anybody to tell me this. I know it because I've lived it. Nobody needs to tell you after that this is the truth. Thank you.
My practice points for the week are going to be that the line about being mindful of the qualities that lie within me, and that would be a reflection of how I see the world around me, like divinity, and like in certain aspects, I'm able to see when I talk to people, that there is divinity in them, but I don't universally apply it. I get judgmental, and I tend to, perceive them in a certain way, and this principle I tend to miss. So it's not universally applied. So I have to be mindful of that. And also about my spiritual ego, that also is something that especially because I wear the tally counter, and even at work, and it's always around my finger wherever I'm going. So people tend to ask about it. What is this and why do you do it? They sometimes mistake this as a heart monitor or something like that. So I tend to always, have to explain. So even while I explain, I think I tend to take pride in it. I don't realize it that, I feel like I'm sharing it, and, people will start this Gita journey, and I'm this Messiah where I am here to tell people that just come and, come and join this journey. So not realizing that in a way it feels good to share it. And that line of, is it coming from making them better, or is it because is it just my ego? I have to be mindful of that. And today I realize that. So, yeah.
Very nice, very nice. Thank you for sharing with us. So, this spiritual ego, no, you're absolutely right. I think Kakuli also shared, you also sharing. It kicks in ways that you don't even know. And Maya is so tricky. The more you will go down this journey of yours, the more you will observe yourself. Maya is so tricky and so duratatya. What happens is that you might start off by trying to only help. Somebody's asking you a question, you are just trying to help them by sharing your experience. End of that experience, somewhere there is a doership that will come in. Even when you're trying to do, your intent is only to help. You're not trying to teach, you're not trying to preach, you're not trying to look good. You're only doing it because somebody asked. So you are answering and you're helping them. Even then, boss, it is so tricky. There is a concept of doership that will arise, and immediately there is an enjoyership that will come with it. The moment you have doership, you will have enjoyership. and you've created a karma for yourself, a karma bandhan for yourself. And it happens. And you will realize that, at least this is my experience, that I realized it even in a Gita Goshti. Okay. Somebody asked me about my practices and how do I do certain things, right? And I was sharing it. And I was sharing because they were asking, and I was just trying to tell them, how do I do it? Because they're like, we are not able to do this. How do you do this? So I was explaining to them how I do it and what changes I do or whatever that create this ability to do certain things that seem impossible or look difficult, right? When I came back home, I was thinking about it and I realized, the more I speak, the more the ego arises in me. And the only way at this stage of my development is to not talk at all. The less I speak, the better it is for me. Because I have seen every time I speak, even from the most sattvic space, I get deluded somehow. Somewhere the Maya tricks me and a sense of doership comes in. So for me, now I try, and now I'm like, okay, now my practice has to be to use as less words as is possible to explain something that somebody's asked me. Otherwise, keep as quiet as possible, because I do not have control over my ego. I haven't reached that level of evolution in my spiritual journey yet, that I can speak about it without having my spiritual ego arise. That was my learning when I was sharing something in Shalini Didi's house at a Ramcharitmanaska thing. And I was like, oh, wow, like this is incredible. So I do the same thing. Like I hold this and people ask me. So I now use as less words and as less few sentences as possible to explain. That's my journey, because I feel the same. I've experienced that myself. Thank you so much, guys.
Sanchita, will you do closing shlokas again?
Yeah. Om Sarvesham Swastirбhavatu Sarvesham Shantirbhavatu Sarvesham Purnam Bhavatu Sarvesham Mangalam Bhavatu Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinah Sarve Santu Niramayah Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu Ma Kaschit Dukh Bhag Bhavet Om Asatu Ma Sadgamaya Tamaso ma Jyotirgamaya Mritturma Amritam Gamaya Om Shanti 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 Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamivavashishyate Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om. Om. Om.
Narayan, Narayan, everyone. Have a lovely week ahead.
Thank you.
So next week is our quiz to everyone. Finally, we'll actually do it. All right.